Hi, hello, welcome back. Happy Friday. Here we are, we made it. Let's talk about a book. So, no surprise based on the title, today I want to talk about Watch Over Me by Nina LaCour. This is a young adult book. It kind of straddles some genres, so let's talk about that. So this follows a young woman named Mila who is aging out of the foster care system. And when we meet her, she is leaving the last home she had stayed at. It seemed like for a decent amount of time. And she's moving to this farm. And she is going to be a teacher at this farm. And what this is it's a couple. They're known for taking in lots of children from the foster care system and kind of enveloping them in this large family. So Mila is really excited about this and she's looking for connection. Everything this place has to offer seems to match her wants. It's hard to explain this in a linear fashion because it's told through both the actual timeline and flashbacks, because we also get a peek into Mila's past and what happened to her that put her in the system, and also just she has some things in her history that are haunting her. And haunting is a great word because this is marketed as a modern ghost story, and that they mean that both literally and figuratively, which I love. So I'll get to that. I have seen this talked about a decent amount. Somehow it got in my head as a sequel to We Are Okay, one of her other big titles. And I ultimately didn't reread We Are Okay before diving into this one. Based on the blurb, it wasn't anything. I don't remember Mila in that book, but if we interacted with her, this book stands on its own. So I don't think it's not like a straight sequel like I was thinking it might be. So you're good to go into this one by itself. So from the ghost story angle, which obviously this is a perfect time to read some ghost stories. And that's kind of why I picked this up, because this is kind of like the young adult version of this subgenre that doesn't really have a name in adult fiction for me, where it's like literary, but there's something weird going on. And this is definitely that. It's a realistic world, a literary kind of novel, and then there's just something odd. So this, the prose in this is very poetic. It's got a wonderful lyrical quality, which really serves some bits I'll talk about. There's a lot to dig into with this one, but in terms of the ghost story angle, we obviously are exploring Mila's past. So her mother hooked up with this guy that was not great to them, and things happened there that have kind of haunted Mila and also taken away her mother. We don't know where her mother is for the majority of this book. That history is haunting Mila, and when she on the farm, she's kind of forced to confront that history, and it starts showing up in tangible ways and forcing her into flashbacks and kind of to confront some things that she has been avoiding confronting and exploring and thinking about. Additionally, though, there are also very real, literal ghosts in this book. So they're on this farm in like the middle of nowhere. It's pitch black. Mila and her two their interns stay in these cabins separate from the main house where the couple and the children live. And on her first night, the ghosts are kind of a known quantity of this world. They are not a surprise. But on her first night, she's staring through the window with the husband of the couple, whose name is blanking me right now. And there's a ghost that comes across the yard and she's dancing, and it's just kind of the visual of that. The visuals in this are just gorgeous. There's also, in the flashbacks, her mother, the guy that her mom had hooked up with, and lived in this, not just an abandoned house, but like a house without, it was just, I think, the structure of the house. I don't even know if there were like barriers for the walls. So it was just like the base of the home. There was no ceiling, you know, no else. So just like this idea of that visual was just so much there, right? Like this isn't long, obviously. I think it's like 260 pages or so, but so precise and specific and intentional with both the way words are used, but also the images that are being set out. So is just gorgeous. Now, Watch Over Me, the title made me think of the song right away, Someone to Watch Over Me. And that was correct. That's a purposeful allusion. So the song is used throughout the book really specifically and really well. Like I don't remember the last time like a song has kind of featured prominently in a narrative in a way that touched me in this way. So one, the song has been stuck in my head since I started reading the book, but Mila, we know, or we learn, can play piano, and Someone to Watch Over Me is like one of the songs that her grandmother taught her, and is one of the songs that she knows. So like her first night at this farm, she sees the piano and must get some light in her eyes around it, and they ask her if she wants to play, and so she sits down and kind of tinkers out what Someone to Watch Over Me. And it kind of, you know, weaves its way back in throughout the story, but just also the idea of this song, and especially that chorus throughout. And Mila also like listens to records, like they get her a record player for her cabin because she doesn't like the silence of Billie Holiday. So I've listened to a couple different versions since finishing the book of Someone to Watch Over Me. I, for some reason, own the Willie Nelson version. I think I bought an iTunes CD in like 2007 for someone, a friend of my dad's, and it is in my library. But also the Ella Fitzgerald version, and there's an Amy Winehouse version, although that one is gorgeous, but the tempo picks up a little bit in the chorus in a way that I kind of just picked. The song just kind of underscored this whole book for me in this really languid, haunting way, right? Like you see her going, you know, to teach in the house and cleaning and forming connections with the two other interns and really desiring a place in this family and grappling with her history and her past and how she views herself as a person. And there's just this someone to, you know, underneath everything. And it's that perfect haunting melody that just emphasizes everything. So this whole book almost feels like a just really well done montage, or maybe montage isn't the right word, but it's just so connected by that song, it feels like, and I think that really helps. There's a narrative through the way she moves in and out of memory and reality is just so lyrical, and the structure just is gorgeous. And just the song gets at Mila's want. Granted, the song's a little bit more focused on a romantic relationship, but Mila wants this connection. She is driven this whole narrative by wanting someone to care for her. And even the song is rooted in her backstory as connected to her grandparents, who when her mother hooked up with this guy, they'd been living with her grandparents, and she never heard from them again. And she never understood why her grandparents didn't come get her or didn't save her. And so this song is connected to the last time she felt loved and cared for. And we see her searching for this in this book. She connects immediately to the little boy who is under her care as a teacher. So she has been brought in to teach like the middle grades. There's someone that teaches the real little kids, and there's someone that teaches the high school kids. So she's like in the solid elementary age, and she connects with this little boy. His name is Lee, and she meets him, and he's working on long division, and he's meticulously written out his numbers, and any mistake he's made, he's scratched out completely so that it's blacked out. And they just form this kinship, and he is haunted in a way that she feels connected to. In that first meeting, like, he starts staring off into the distance, and he loses himself for a bit, but he talks about his ghost and how his ghost was making faces at him. And Mila, you know, tries to help him and gives him tries to give him tools. So she's like, maybe we have to face what scares us. And so she proposes this to him, and then she's also facing what scares her. And what scares her is both her history and the sadness of that, but what she feels that history means and what she feels that history makes her as a person. And so also, her and Lee are the only two on the farm without a tangible connection to the fact that they belong to this community. In that, she notices the other two interns one day while they're making butter, like shake-up style. She notices they both have bracelets, and she is like, and then she goes to dinner and realizes that everyone but her and Lee have some form of jewelry that mark them as belonging. And she feels that immediately, in that she wants that bracelet. She wants to be marked as a member of this family. She wants to belong. She's so sad that she wasn't a child on this farm, that she didn't get to grow up and become adopted into this family. So we see her grappling with that. And then it starts ramping up in terms of like the history she's facing, and also like Lee is getting more anxious and scared, and she's trying to help him, and then, you know, something happens off, and so as she's becoming more agitated, she also like becomes closer with her fellow interns. At one point, they all start like sharing a bed out of comfort. She's clinging to any human connection she can. And then things are upset a little bit one night when she wakes up alone. And she goes off and sees something happening that she is not privy to because she is not part of this family. And she feels the slight of that. And she's also afraid for Lee, and she doesn't know what's going on. That feels like a spoiler in a way that I don't think it is. It's just, you have to kind of move with the waves of this narrative. I expected to move through it very quickly, and I kind of took my time with it and savored it. Like, I didn't speed through this. It explores some really gorgeous, it does some really gorgeous things with imagery, really gorgeous things with you know, structure and how that song plays into things. It does a deep dive and exploration into trauma and how trauma impacts us and how it stays with us, and it explores that a little bit through some manifestations of trauma. The modern ghost story angle is just such a gorgeous description, especially like after having finished the book. I adored it. If you're looking for something that has that kind of, it's not spooky element to it, but if you're looking for something that feels like fall and October, it's got ghosts, but it's not scary. And it's got the ghosts of our pasts that may be a little scary. But it also just has such a haunting lyrical quality to its prose. And it's something that feels very fall too, in that it's slow and languid. And I think it was released the end of September. And I think that was a great call on the publisher's part. I think that this is a really perfect fall book. I really adored it. I wasn't sure what to expect from it. and it just blew me away. I'm so glad I bought a copy. I bought a copy at Women and Children First, and the night before I'd even texted my friend. I was like, hey, I know you really liked We Are Okay. I want to buy the sequel because I still thought it was going to be tied in more strongly. Can I lend it to you when I'm done so I can justify buying this copy? And I feel no need to justify this purchase. This was just a really wonderful book, and there is so much to unpack in such a small space, but it also doesn't feel dense and overwhelming and too much. It's just a perfect balance. It was a wonderful surprise and an utter delight, and I hope that everyone picks this up if it sounds of interest to you. I think you should read it. I'd be interested to hear other people's responses to this book, especially if you didn't know the song Someone to Watch Over Me going into this book. How did that impact your reading experience? Did you still get the same from it? Maybe that piece didn't connect as much, but there's still so much going on in here that I think that there is a lot to play with. So I babbled on about this a little bit, but there's so much, as you can see. So you'd think that there's not much to talk about, but I just skimmed the surface. I think also this would make a great book club book because there's a lot to talk about and it's very short. So something to think about. But let me know what you thought. I hope you read it. I think it's well worth your time. So see you next Friday for another book.